In my last video, I made mention of paths and I briefly showed you how you can convert an object into paths, but that's not all. Hi, Luhamfm here and welcome to another tutorial on Inkscape. In this lesson, we'll be looking at paths and pathfinders, so let's get started. From our last video, we already know how to convert an object into a path, and an object are just anything with a predetermined shape, structure or settings. So for instance, this rectangle tool is an object because it is predetermined that anytime I click to draw, it will give me either a rectangle or square, so it is an object. Image also is also an object, so because it is predetermined to have whatever element it has. But in our last video, when we talk about the Bezier tool, so I showed how you can use the Bezier tool to connect nodes together, and once you use the Bezier tool to connect nodes together, you will create a path, not an object, because this will give you the freedom to generate whatever form of shape you want to generate. So to see the difference between a path and a object, when I click on my nodes tool, you can see when I click on the object we have just do, you can see that they just have this few points here that I can either use to convert, that I can either use to curve the edges, or I can use to like resize. I can't do really much about this because it is an object. It is predetermined that to be a square, so my manipulations on this square will just be limited to resizing and curving out the edges. But when I click on my parts that I do here, you can see that I have access to every of the individual nodes I have created, and I can adjust them, I can curve them and delete and add a couple of nodes. So you can check out my previous video on Bezier tool to see how you can manipulate this further using your nodes tool. So if we wish to convert an object into a path, we can do that by clicking on the object and heading over to the top window bar here. We can see that the paths have a whole menu on its own where you can see the path setting and all of the pathfinders which we'll be looking at. So if you wish to convert an object to path, you just click on the object, head over to the top menu, click on path and click on object to path, or you use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+C. So once I just click the object and I use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift and C, you can see that the object has been converted into a path. And to know that, you can just click on your nodes tool and you can see that we don't have those predetermined settings that we can just use to convert the edges and resize it. Now we have access to every of the nodes that we can use to manipulate them further whichever way we want. And also you can also convert an stroke into a path. Let's say for instance we give this a stroke and let's delete the fill color, so you can also convert a stroke into paths. So to do that, also you click on the paths, the stroke, and you go to paths and you can see stroke to paths. So once you click on it, it has converted into a path, and this will now enable you to adjust both this every of the nodes of the stroke. You can use it to resize the width, you can even convert it to a whole shape entirely using your nodes tool. So you can either convert an object to path and also a stroke to path. But like I said, an object is not limited to only shapes. Images too are also objects, even texts are also objects. So you can also convert a text into a node. Let me insert a text. For instance, let me just insert a letter here. Let me increase the size so we can see. Sorry, let me give this a color and remove the outline, and let's change the text style so we can see that very well. Okay, let me make it caps lock. Okay, so this is a text. Now we can also convert this text into a path, so we can use to edit all of the nodes. So if I click on my nodes tool, you can see that I can't do anything because it is still an object. All I can do is to just play around with the size of the text. So I can convert this text into an part by just clicking on the text, go to parts, object to part, or also use the shortcut Shift, Control and C. So when I've done that, you can see that it is now converted into a part, and I have access to every of the individual nodes which I can use to manipulate this text further. And this is also good for logo design, so that you have complete access to your text and you can create a logo design from a text. So that's it about the parts. You can convert an object to parts, you can convert also the stroke to part, and you can also convert a text into part. And I also mentioned that images too are also a part, and you can convert the image and image to parts. And to do that, you first of all insert the image by clicking on Ctrl I, which is the shortcut to import an image, or you click on this icon here to import an image. So you go and select the image you wish to import. So let's import this image right here. You click on it and click on open. So a pop-up will show down to adjust the setting, but I'll leave everything like this and click on OK. So we have our image here. Let me zoom out a bit and reduce the image. So this currently is an image. So if I click on my notes too, I can't do anything to the image because it is an object, it is predetermined. So for me to convert this into a part that I can use to edit, I'll just head over to parts and I click on trace bitmap. Trace bitmap is the one that helps you convert an image or a bitmap into a part that you can edit. Once I click on trace bitmap, you can see this is the preview of the image that has been converted into a part. There are a lot of settings that we can do under this trace bitmap. It's really a powerful tool which I will cover in a separate video, but just to show you guys how you can convert an image into a part, I will just leave the settings like this and click on apply. So when I'm done, you can see this is my part here. Let me close this bar. So this is my part here. Let me increase it a little bit. Once I click on my notes too, you can see that there's a whole lot of notes here that have been converted from the image that I can edit and play around with. But one of the most cool thing here is that since this is already a part, I can do some settings to it, which is like changing of color. I can select a whole different color to the parts. I can play with the outline as well. I can do a whole lot of things because it is now converted into a part. So that is it, guys, about everything under the part. So we'll head over now to the Pathfinders. So let me delete all of this. So Pathfinders are just set of tools or settings that help you to create a more complex shapes from 2 or more parts, and you can see your Pathfinders from your parts menu over here. All of these settings with icons are your Pathfinders, and in today's video we'll be covering from union down to combine. I'll be showing you how you can apply them and all the use cases we have about them. So let's start with union. Union, like the name implies, will help you unite or join 2 or more parts which are overlaid on each other, and it will copy the properties of the part which is below. So let's say for instance we have a shape here. Let me for instance insert a triangle. So I'll just draw a triangle here and let me give this a green color. So let me convert this into a part first. So we go to parts, object to part, so it is now a part. So I will duplicate it by clicking on Ctrl D and let me change this color to red. So we have 2 parts overlaid on each other. Now let's just make it 3. Duplicate this again and click on another different color. So what union will do is that it will combine all of these parts that I have here into a single part. So all of this will be combined together and it will copy the properties of the one which is below, which is this green here. This green is one below all of these objects. So it will copy the properties from this green and combine all of it together. And to do that, you can just highlight all the parts together, or you hold your shift and click on them individually, so it's just faster to highlight. So once you highlight, you go to parts and you click on union. You can see it has unite all of the parts together, and they are like one individual part now. So you can see these are all these triangles have become one, and you can see that I have access to all of the individual nodes and I can play with them. So that's basically it about union. So we'll move to the next one. The next one here is difference. Difference is more like a mathematical term which is used to subtract. So what difference does is that it will subtract the top part from the bottom part and it will give you what is left. Let me insert a different shape and convert it into a part. Let me convert this into a part object to part. So this object is now a part. So let me duplicate this to have another object, and let me change the color so we can really see it. So let me reduce this side. Let's create kind of like a byte from this object. So what difference will do is that it will subtract this top one from this bottom. So as they are overlaid on each other, now it will subtract this one from this one and give you what is left. Also copying the properties from the one below. So let's demonstrate that. So when I highlight the two of them together, I go to my part and I click on difference. You can see it has subtracted the one that is at the top from the one below, and it gave us what is left. So that's it about difference. So we'll move over to the next one. So the next one here is intersection. Also intersection, just like the name implies, it just cut out the intersection between two or more parts. So to cut out the intersection between two or more parts, let's insert another object which will convert to part object to part, and let's insert another different shape. This time let's do a star. Yeah, so let's give this another color and we'll overlay them on each other. Let's place the star at the top of the circle that we just created. So what intersection will do is that it will remove the point at which these two shapes intersect. So the point at which they overlay at each other is called the intersection. Okay, let me use a circle so you understand very well. Let me duplicate this and overlay it on each other now, and let me remove their fill and leave only an outline so you can see what I'm talking about. So this point here where this circle overlay between each other, this point here is called the intersection. And what the intersection tool under the Pathfinder will do is that it will just cut out these points here and delete the rest. So let's give this back a fill. Let me give this a different color and let me remove the outline back. So when I highlight them together, they are already converted into part object to part. I go over to my parts and I click on intersection. You can see that it cuts out just the point at which they meet. And this can also be done with like multiple shapes, not just two parts. Sorry, if I duplicate this and I give this a different color, so now we have three parts. Let me remove the fill and give it the outline so you can see the intersection. So this now will cut out the intersection of where the three of these objects meet, which is this. This is the intersection. This is where all of the three objects meets together. So let me give this a different fill and let me remove the outline and let's demonstrate. So I'll highlight them together, remove the outline, then I'll go to parts, intersection. You can see it keeps only that intersection where the three objects meet together. So that's it about the intersection. So we'll go over to the next one, which is exclusion. Exclusion is kind of like the opposite of intersection. And once you go over to your part, you look at the images, you can see that the icons, they tend to like represent what the tools does. So you can see exclusion is kind of like the opposite of intersection, which means that it will delete the point where they intersect and keep what is left. So let's use the same shapes we use for the intersection so you will really understand. So we have a circle now. Let's convert it into a part object to part, and let me duplicate this, give it a different color and let them fall under each other. So in intersection, we know that what the two will do, that it will keep the intersection, but this exclusion now will do the opposite. It will delete the intersection and keep what is left, also copying the properties from the one which is below. So when I highlight everything, I go over to parts and I click on exclusion, you can see it deletes only the intersection and it keeps the whole of the shape. And also we can do that with two or more parts, and not necessarily the same parts. We can use different parts. So I insert a rectangle now and I convert it into a parts object to parts, and I place it over each other now. So we can see that these three shapes, they actually intersect at a point. Let me change the color. Also, let me give them an outline and remove the fill so we can see the intersection. So this is where the three of this shape intersect. So if I highlight everything together and I click on parts and I click on intersection, you can see that it keeps only their intersection, but exclusion, we know that does the opposite. So when I highlight everything part, I click on exclusion, it will delete all the points where they intersect and keep what is left. So that is what exclusion does. So we'll move over to the next one. The next one here is division. Okay, division will do basically what difference will do, but the only difference between them is that it will keep the pieces left from the difference. I don't know if you understand. So difference, we know that difference basically will just subtract a part from another and give you what is left, but division in this case will actually subtract a part from another, but it will give you the other part that has been subtracted. So let me demonstrate. So let's use the same circle to demonstrate division. So when we insert a circle and go to parts and we click on object to part, it is now a part, and let's do Ctrl D to get another part, change the color and let us resize it. So now we have overlaid these two parts on top of each other, and we know that what difference does is that it will just subtract this part from this one and it will delete the remaining of this, but division will do just that, but it won't delete the remaining. So let me show you. Once I highlight everything, I go to parts and I click on division, you can see it has cut it out, but it did not delete it. So you can see a line here that shows the cutout, and I can also remove the cutout. So you can see that it makes the difference, but the remaining pieces, it did not delete it. So I still have my pieces and the cutout from my original shape. So that is what division does. So we'll move over to the next tool. The next tool here is cut part. Okay, so what cut part will do is that it will make a difference of the outline while removing the fill and not deleting the pieces. So basically what cut part does is that it is doing exactly what division is doing, but it is doing it without the fill. I hope it's not getting confusing at this point. So let me demonstrate. Let's insert two shapes again. Let's convert this to object to part. Then let's insert a different shape and also convert it into part object to part. Let's give this a different color. So we'll overlay them on each other. So let me show you what division does again, then I'll show you what cut part does. So if you go to parts and you click on division, you can see that division will make a difference of the shape, but it will keep the pieces that is left. So just like we demonstrated here, that is division. So cut part will do basically the same thing, but it will delete the fill. So let me give this an outline. So cut part is just basically you are doing division, but for the outline, not for the fill. So I have them highlighted. I go to parts, cut parts. So you can see it has cut the two parts together, but just the outline. You are not seeing the fill. Also, let me do that again. So we have them highlighted together. So when I do division will just make a difference of these two shapes. To just remove this shape from this shape. So it's because it is a circle, that is why we are still having an arc. But let me delete the circle and duplicate this rectangle. Let me give this a fill. So when I highlight the two of them together and I go to path, cut path, you can see that it has cut the first, it has made a difference of the first part, sorry, from the other one, but while deleting the fill. So cut path is just basically for the outline, not the fill. So let's move over to the next one, and which is the last one we'll be covering in this video, which is combine. Okay, combine also does the same thing union does, but the difference is that while union copy the properties of the one which is below, combine will copy the properties of the one which is at the top. And also combine doesn't combine the outline, it only combines the fill together, whereas union will just unite all the parts into one. So let's demonstrate using the same shape we use for the union. So let me insert a triangle again. So to insert the triangle, we just basically insert a polygon, then we just reduce the corners into 3. So that's how you insert a triangle. So let's convert this into a part. We go to parts, object to part. So this is now a part. Let me duplicate this, give it a different color, and let's overlay it on top of each other. So we know that when we highlight these two together and we go to parts, we click on union, we can see that union will combine the two parts together into one, and it will copy the properties of the one which is behind. So it copies the fill of the one which is behind. So if we change the outline of the one behind into blue, for instance, and we highlight the two and we go to union, we can see that it will copy both the fill and the outline of the one which is behind. But combine is actually different. So we can see that when we use union also, you can see it copies the fill and the outline. And if I delete the fill, you can see that the outline also is also combined into a single part. For combine, it is quite different. So when I highlight the two, I go to part and I click on combine. You can see it combined the two and it copies the properties of the one in front, not the one behind. So this is the one in front, and when I combine two of them together, it will copy the properties of the one in front. And when I remove the fill, you can see that the outline is not being combined. The outline is still showing you that it is actually a different part which is laid on each other. So that is it about union. That's it, guys, about this video. We have looked at paths and pathfinders. So pathfinders are really great tools that are used to create a unique combination of two or more parts together. They are really good when you are creating a logo design. It helps you to see a different perspective of parts so that you can come up with something creative and unique. So guys, we'll be looking at more tools under this parts menu in a separate video, which is also this trace bitmap. There are a lot of settings in the trace bitmaps that I would like to talk about, but it will be on a separate video. Also, these remaining tools that we didn't cover in this video, we'll look at them in other video. Thank you, guys. If this video was helpful, please leave a like. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comment section below and I will interact with it. Thank you all, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.